Hi, welcome back to Woodwork Journey. I'm Dean, and today's doing something a little bit different. I'm hoping to start a small series of videos that happen every now and again where we look at behind the scenes, behind the curtain, if you like, for things that we may take for granted. So from consumables to tooling to technology to, what materials, for instance, whatever it may be. So today we're going to be talking about screws, about stuff, and it doesn't sound like it's going to be interesting, but I hope to show you that there is more to think about when it comes to screws and stuff, rather than just how much they cost. So I hope you do stick with me for this video. I hope you get something from it. And if you do, please do let me know in the comments below. But let's run the intro and get straight into an interview with Tony from Forge Fix. So here I am with Tony Armitt from Forge Fix here in the UK. Thanks very much for joining me, Tony.
You're welcome, Dean. Pleasure to be here.
Great stuff. So what we're doing, as I said in the intro, is finding out a little bit more about Forge Fix, also about my favourite screws, but also what actually is involved with fasteners and stuff, because we often overlook them because they're just consumables. They're things that everybody just has to go and buy. So I thought it would be interesting to have a look behind the curtain, so to speak. Now, when it comes to Forge Fix, you guys have been around for a long time, since about 91. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, I've been with the company now, well, next year will be 25 years, so I've seen it from its infancy. And I think we like to think we know what we're talking about when it comes to screws.
Absolutely. And you've specialised with fasteners generally, fixings and fasteners, and that's been something that you've kind of stuck with, and you haven't really sort of diverted from that over the time. Is that right as well?
No, that's correct. I mean, there are a number of our competitors who've done that. We decided that we wanted to be a specialist in fixings and fasteners, and that's all we sell. So we've deliberately not tried to diversify into other areas.
Gotcha. And you supply to trades, building merchants, shops, and individuals as well?
No, we have a policy where we don't deal with end users.
Gotcha.
So we will only deal with businesses that have a trade counter.
Gotcha.
As a minimum, yeah.
So when it comes to people that are watching this video that say they want to try some, say, Forge Fast or something like that, then it's best to go onto your website and look for a nearby supplier or something like that, or you can let them know.
I'll just call the office and we'll direct you. We've got customers all over the country.
Fantastic. One of the things that I really like the idea of, and we'll delve into sort of the design and development aspect of Forge Fix in a minute, but when you deal with factories overseas, one of the aspects that you do is you audit them to make sure that they are treating people ethically and properly and all that sort of stuff as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. We have a very stringent auditing process. I actually go out into the Far East a couple of times a year. I've not been doing so during the COVID years, but I was back in Taiwan earlier in the year. We try to go out. I'll go to Taiwan a couple of times a year. One of my colleagues will be out to China, once or twice a year. We audit all the factories regularly. We make sure that the staff are being treated ethically. And also, we just want to make sure that we're dealing with the right types of factories and the products are as good as they were when we first started trading with them.
Absolutely. I know a lot of people kind of have issues with products being made abroad in this day and age, but pretty much everything is, for a start. But the quality can vary so drastically.
And massively so, yeah. And especially when it comes to the raw materials, we examine all the raw materials at the point of the product being made. What we don't want to do is to buy a product where they say use recycled steel, because you can get a lot of impurities in it, which means you get breakages in the screws.
Yeah.
We're very keen on the quality aspects of our products.
So Tony, can you just let us know exactly what your job entails? I know you just mentioned going abroad, but
so I'm the commercial technical director. A lot of my businesses, I travel out to the Far East, inspect factories. I'm involved in the new product development. I think I've got a good understanding of the products. But I also deal directly with some of our key accounts as well. So, I have a bit of a few different hats, let's say, within the business.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And I mean, if you've been there for 25 years, you've seen a lot of development of something like screws. I imagine more so over the last maybe sort of 20 odd years than previous years. But things started roughly with a sort of flathead, then we went to Phillips, then we went to posi drives, and then we went to things like the Torx and also the square ones that are in Canada and pocket hole screws that I can never remember the name of.
Yeah.
Um, have you seen that those changes have been made because the customers demanded them, or has the industry gone, do you know what, we think we can make this better?
A lot of it's been around the development of power tools, actually. So if we take the Phillips head screw, that's very popular in America and not so popular here in the UK. That was actually designed to cam out once it got to a certain level of torque.
Oh, right.
Um, and the Americans continue to use that. The posi head obviously is a much better product, and actually on the continent they prefer the torque head. So in the UK, we probably sell 80% posi head to 20% Torx. On the continent, it's completely the reverse. They prefer the Torx head. And say in America, it's nearly all Phillips.
Right.
So
right.
yeah, and a lot of it is, as I say, has been designed around power tools as well. You know, with a Torx head, you can get a much higher level of torque than you can with a posi head, and the Europeans embrace that a lot quicker than the Brits, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I love the Torx and have done for a long time because as someone with sort of various disabilities, sometimes my hands don't work overly well.
Yeah.
And I find that I very rarely will cam out, unless I'm being particularly weak that day, will very rarely cam out on, trying to get screws into boxes, lumps of wood or whatever else. And that Torx just really helps me grip hold of stuff a lot easier.
Yeah, it's my preferred screw recess is the Torx. The only disadvantage to a Torx is where you're using lots of different sizes of screws because, as you know, with the Torx head, it's one reset per gauge of screw. But if you're doing a job like something like decking, where you're using the same gauge throughout the project, absolutely perfect for that.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we talked about a whole bunch of different types of screws, but what goes into the actual development? Because something like the forge fast screws, for instance, are the ones that I'm using and I love them. I think they do a fantastic job. But they're not the cheapest, and we have to address that. But what goes into the development of them to make them the quality that they are?
Well, the forge fast torque screws are from Taiwan. What you find with a lot of the cheaper screws, they come from China, so it tends to be a different grade of material. You will find that the factories don't change the tools quite as often. So with a lot of Chinese screws, you'll find that the heads are slightly off, or they might not be entirely straight, for instance. And it varies from factory to factory, I have to say. There are some very good Chinese factories out there.
Of course, yeah.
But the Taiwanese are especially good at making screws, I believe. The material is generally slightly better than the material. Gotcha. But also, they pay better wages to the staff than the Chinese. The factory conditions are better, and the quality control that they have is far superior, in my opinion. And all those sort of factors go into to making the product more expensive.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you end up with a better product.
Absolutely.
And actually, you will generally find that the Chinese are not very inventive, where the Taiwanese are. And a lot of our screws are patented, or at least have many features that are not available on Chinese screws.
Yeah.
The forge cast is a perfect example of that, where the forge cast screw, it's self-drilling, and there's no other screw like it on the market. And I believe it's probably one of the best screws out there, and certainly in products like hardwood, where you would have to pre-drill the hardwood beforehand. You don't have to do that with the forge cast screw, as you know, which makes it a much better product for things like sleepers and other garden features.
Yeah, for sure. I showed a video a while ago now of screwing into sort of a regular screw going into a bit of wood and it getting split, and then the forge fast one going in and it's being fine. Now, obviously, that the fact that it has the drilling aspect to it, it has like a spiral on the inside of the
Yeah.
shank, doesn't it? Um, that's excellent, but to set expectations, obviously you still are going to have a problem if you put it in the side of a bit of 18 mil MDF, or if you put it in kind of right on the edge, depending on the size of the screw, of course.
Yeah, you would do. It performs better, I have to say, than other screws
Yes.
in
Yeah,
those
yeah, yeah.
circumstances. But what you'll find is because of that drill thread design that runs through the screw, you get a lot less torque.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, if you're putting screws in, you'll notice if you put a screw in and take a screw out, you get a 5100. It can be quite hot,
Mm.
and that's because of the amount of energy that's used to try and drive that screw in.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have that issue with the forge fast screws. So you use a lot less battery life on your screw. Your power tool lasts longer,
Yeah,
and there's a lot less wear and tear on your drill as well.
absolutely.
So
Yeah,
your
I
drill
mean,
should last longer. The
yeah.
motor on it would last longer.
I was buying them before we sort of started working together with you supplying me some screws. Now, just to highlight once again to anyone watching, you guys don't pay me anything. There's nothing there. It's just that you've sent me a few screws before, just so I can because I
My
use them
pleasure. Yeah.
anyway. So,
Thank you. Yeah.
um, when it comes to thinking about the spiral in the shank and all that sort of stuff, presumably someone had to come up with the idea of that and then develop it, and then you get so many hundreds or thousands of prototypes, then they have to be developed. And all of this goes into the production costs as well, doesn't it? That people tend to not think about.
It does. I mean, I say I go out to Taiwan a couple of times a year. It's not just to audit the factories; it's to discuss new product designs, new developments, different heads and things like that.
Yeah.
We've got a few new prototypes at the moment that we're looking at. I don't want to discuss them at this moment in time because they're not complete. But we've got some interesting products coming up, and we're always looking to try and improve the ones we've already got as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's nice to deal with a company that enjoys feedback, because there's a lot of companies out there that say, well, this is it. If you don't like it, screw off, sort of thing. Yeah.
No, we like to listen to our customers, and if there are features that they don't want or they prefer, we'll always look at it. One of the things we did with the Forge Fast screw, we moved away from using CR6, for instance, in the coating, and it's
Mhm.
CR3. And the reason we did that is because it's much more environmentally friendly. CR6 produce a lot of awful gases, and most screws, by the way, are CR6 coated. But we recognise CR3 is better for the environment, better for the people that are actually manufacturing the
Mm,
screws in the plating factories. So it's a more expensive process,
of
but we
course.
think it's worthwhile, because it's better for the environment, better for the people
Absolutely.
who are making the screws.
Absolutely. And one of the things with the Forge Fast that I'm pretty sure I think is
Yeah,
the fact that there's been a lot of time and effort working out which bits need to be rigid, as in sort of super hard and being able to cut through stuff, and also which aspects of the screw need to be soft enough so it just doesn't break. So people that make their own
sure.
knives, for instance, know that if you over harden it, then it'll just shatter. But at the
Yeah,
same time, you make it too soft and it'll be bendy and horrible. But
yeah.
to make something like that, there's a lot involved in that as well, isn't there?
There is, and the factory that we use actually has their own furnace. So quite often when you go to China, you'll find that the Chinese they'll put the heads on the screws, and they will thread the screws, and they will send them out to be hardened by somebody else. So it's completely out of their hands.
Mm-hmm.
The Forge Fast screw, they do all that in house, and they bought some very very expensive Japanese machinery. It's all computer based. The whole furnace, every section of it has its own heat controlled processes, and it's monitored throughout the process. So they're 100% confident of the product that they produce, and that it's been heat treated exactly how it should be from start to finish.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And with regards to your average DIYer, so you've got
Mm.
somebody who watches my channel that kind of builds a bit at the weekend and does a normal 9 to 5. What screw? I mean, head dependent, obviously. What do you think is the best general purpose screw that you guys are doing at the moment that you think most people should be looking out for if they're just in that DIY space?
For DIYers, and I use these myself, I would recommend our Spectre screw. It's a posi-headed screw. It's got a number of features on there. It's not that much more expensive than the standard multi-purpose screw, but boy, it performs so much better. It's got a cutting tip on the end, which obviously makes it easy to break into harder materials. So things like laminates and things like that. Or hard chipboards. It's got teeth on the thread, which will help with the splitting, so you don't get the jacking and the splitting of the timber. Further up the thread, on any screws over 50 mil, we also add a reamer thread, so that creates a slight gap between the board and the screw. So if you're joining two pieces of timber together, what will happen is sometimes you get spinning. Where created by the friction, or you get jacking where the two boards will separate. And that takes away that problem. And it's got the head, the neck. It's got a double recessed neck for extra strength. As I say, it's a posi head, so it's more of an all-rounder.
Gotcha. A lot of people don't realise that when you've got two bits of wood to go together, if the screw is going in this one, the thread doesn't have to bite against this at all. It has to bite against that to pull it together. So the fact that you've got a reaming aspect to it as well really does sort of work out well on that one.
Yeah, and it's a good price. It's something I designed probably 5 years ago. I sat down with a supplier. We spec'd up what type of screw we wanted, and it's been our fastest growing product. To be frank with you,
excellent.
I'm very pleased with it.
Well, I'll make sure I leave a link to that down below, as well as anything else that I can find that we talk about. But if there was something, because I think we should probably come to an end now, so people don't get too bored. But if there was something that you wanted to tell firstly for the average home DIYer / woodworker, and also something for someone who's doing things slightly more professionally, maybe it's part of their job as a cabinet maker or whatever. What would be the aspects that you would suggest, if you like?
If you're just using general softwoods, I think Spectre screw is perfectly fine for that, and I would recommend that. If you're using harder woods, I would always use a forge fast screw because of the low torque design and the self drilling aspect of the screw. And if you're using for exterior use, please use a screw with an exterior finish, because the number of people that I've seen where they've just used an interior screw on an external finish and then have to replace it 12 months later. Nobody wants to do that. So look for a product which claims that it's got at least 1,000 hours as an exterior finish.
Right. I didn't realise that screws showed the things in a kind of a proving in an hour.
What we do, just generally speaking, an interior screw, if you put it through a salt spray test, zinc would probably last about 80 hours. Salt spray tested. Zinc yellow maybe up to 150 hours. Well, then our exterior screws would be 1,000 hours. So it's going to last 10 times longer. Yeah. So I would strongly recommend for exterior purposes, always use an appropriate screw.
Absolutely. And with regards to the strength of a screw, is there a sort of a similar measurement on that aspect as well?
Well, there is, and if you always look for a screw with a CE mark or a UKCA mark, because those if it's CE or UKCA, then it's approved for structural purposes. So in other words, it's safe to use for building. So roof structures, that sort of thing. You must use a CE UKCA screw, and all of our screws are CE and UKCA approved.
Gotcha. I was taking apart an old workbench that I made a couple of years ago that before I found the forge fix screw or the forge fast screws, and as I was trying to undo it, the heads just kept breaking off the things. I think I posted about it on Instagram, but it was the most annoying thing.
Yeah.
But no, but yeah. I mean, is there anything else that you'd like to say about Forge Fast or Forge Fix as a company to anyone that's watching?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we're very proud of our products, and we think they're very good quality, reasonably priced, and please try them.
Okay, thanks very much for that, Tony. I'll get back to my normal headed bit of the video now.
All right, thanks, Steve.
That was it. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Dean. That was Tony. And like I said earlier on at the start, if you found this useful or entertaining or something that you would like to see more of, please do let me know, because I'd like to show more videos going behind the scenes about all aspects of stuff that doesn't normally get covered on YouTube when it comes to woodworking, because I think having that background knowledge really is helpful. But if you did like it, please leave a comment down below. Make sure that you hit the subscribe and the bell, and I will see you very, very soon. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.